Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
We are taking on so many roles as parents. It's an impossible thing to be put together without help, assistance, relying on other people.
Absolutely. And the idea of asking for help, I always say that the number one fear for most people in America is asking for help.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Bree Tucker.
Well, hello, everybody. How are you?
Very lovely right now. She's a bunny. She's a bunny, guys.
That's when you can tell it's been a long morning already.
It's been, yeah, like we're recording this on a Friday and I'm ready for the weekend. I'm ready to veg out. I need to watch my Only Murders in the Building, catch up on some Netflix, and that's going to be my plan for the day.
Sounds like a good plan. I like it.
I think so too. But our guest for you today, if you're feeling really lonely, like you don't have the friends around you need or the connections, this interview is going to be so good for you. We're talking to Florence Romano. She's a personal growth strategist and author of Build Your Village, a guide to finding joy and community in every stage of life. She wants to show people that not only is the saying it takes a village true, but also how important the need for community is. And listen, in this episode, she tells you the 6 kind of people that you need in your life. And Bree and I are going to kind of dissect it at the end of the interview. So stay around for that. And now let's get on with the show.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast.
So Florence Ann, I am so fascinated by your life because you were a nanny. Can you tell me, where were you a nanny for? I'm picturing like nanny diaries and like working for these very wealthy families and having to sign NDAs and everything like that. What can you tell me about being a nanny?
That's what it was. I should make it more glamorous now and just like add a little bit of more, pizzazz to it as I get older. I worked in the Chicago area. I'm born and raised Midwest girl, Chicago, old school Italian family. My grandparents lived with us growing up. It was loud. It was big. It was food. It was guilt. It was all of it. And I just loved being a part of kind of crazy and excitement. And I was curious. I was a very curious young girl about how people behaved and the dynamics. And I always loved children from a young age. I will tell you a quick story. I used to ask my mom to take me to the hospital to have a baby. And what I meant by that was to take me to the toy store so I could pick out a baby doll.
So you mentioned big Italian family, and I noticed you mentioned guilt in there.
Yeah.
Were you by chance Roman Catholic?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I got it.
It's true. Bree, you seem to understand the guilt. That comes in a lot of different ways, a lot of different religions, races, creeds. We all kind of subscribe to it, but for sure, the Catholicism.
Oh yeah, the Catholic guilt. My husband calls me out on that all the time. He's like, that Catholic guilt really did a number on you. I'm like, it really did.
I get to my best friend and I always talk about penance. We're like, oh, we probably have to, we probably need some penance for that. We talk about being Bible fair in life. It does. I went to private Catholic school my whole life, so I get it.
So you were a nanny. So what was that like?
Gosh, what was funny was it was all before like Nanny 911 or Super Nanny or any of that happened. But I was honestly living that life that, that nanny was even before she had brought it to television. And I was very lucky. I worked for unbelievable families. The children were wonderful. I still keep in contact with every child that I've ever nannied for to this day. I have attended their weddings. I've seen them have their own children. I mean, it is just unbelievable. I'm not going to be bitter at all. The fact that I am still not married and have no children of my own, but that's okay. That's a different podcast for another time. But I really got to run the gamut. And what was the most interesting part was I was brought into these families that obviously needed that assistance and they were willing to make me part of their family. But also we learned a lot together and they learned from me that I was going to see other things in their children, other things in their family that they perhaps as the parents were not going to see themselves. And that was probably one of the harder lessons for me and the parents to learn when I had to go to them and say, listen, I'm concerned about this, or I'm seeing this, and I need you to tell me if I can kind of go ahead and deal with this situation with your children, or do we want to deal with this together as a unit? These are things I think a lot of people don't think about when it comes to having someone else there helping you raise your children, being part of that village. It can seem threatening, it can seem competitive, but if it's done correctly, it really is just adding love and protection to your children in a beautiful way.
Yeah, I want to pinpoint on that. It could seem threatening and it could seem competitive, because that is something that I think that we here in America, like we have that perspective. If we are quote unquote good parents, we should have it all together. We should be the ones who are like taking control of the parenting situations. I mean, like there was one situation that happened with a friend of mine where her child, who's 4, was off doing something else. And I was like, oh, hey, bud, what you doing? And she took a lot of offense at that, because she interpreted it to be like, I didn't think she had control of her parenting. And that's why I was stepping in, which wasn't the case at all. It was more like there to support her.
Right.
Because I could see she was stressed out. And I was just another adult who the child would probably react differently to, because I'm not like, I'm not around them all the time.
And I'm also going to throw in there, knowing you from the side that I know you as your friend, Joanne, like that's how our friend group is. Like every single one of us were like, we learned a long time ago about the importance of having that community and being there to support one another. So like I 100% expect that out of people around me.
I'm like, please take my kid. Take my kid. You want to talk to them? Please go talk to them. Maybe
were they climbing on that fence? My bad.
Like, thank you for catching that. Yeah, the community is so important.
Is. But most of the time when someone reacts that way, Joanne, I would say it has nothing to do with you.
I know.
It has to do with their own insecurities, and it has to do with whatever they're struggling with regarding their own, what they feel maybe are their failures as a parent. I think we learn that as we get older, that more often than not, people's reactions to us or things they say to us have very little to do with who we actually are or what we are actually doing. That's wisdom that comes with age, certainly.
Exactly. It is. And I think my reaction to the situation had everything to do with my own securities as well, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm such a horrible person. And how could I butt in? And why do people think this of me? Obviously my own insecurities there that I am deeply working towards. But something that you really promote is creating this village around you. So what are you seeing today where people don't have the villages?
Yeah, that seems to have changed quite a bit. Like I had mentioned before, I grew up in an old school Italian household. My grandparents lived with us. We were that definition of what village used to be, that nuclear family that lived near you, that lived in your house, that was helping raise your children. And I think today's world, the pendulum swings very far and often and kind of aggressively one way to the other. And there's very little gray area. And so now it's like, okay, well, that used to be what it was like, that nuclear family. And now we've moved away from that. And there's a lot more independence and a lot more getting away from family and choosing, who the family is that you want. And I believe in all of that. But I believe in kind of a blend of the old school and new school. And I think that's what really accomplishes the success in a family unit. I want people to be creative about how they build that village. But I also want people to understand that relying on others and asking for that help and letting that love in is exactly what you should be doing. It is not a sign of weakness. And to just put a little, more of an exclamation action point on that. Look at the stimulation we have around us with social media and the outside influences that sometimes seep into our souls and keep us up at night. And we wonder why we feel so depleted, why we feel like such failures, because this stimuli out there is affecting our subconscious. And we are not understanding, right, how much we're allowing what we're seeing to affect how we feel about ourselves.
It's funny too, because right before I jumped on this interview, I saw a meme, and the meme was a blank space, and it was titled "Parent Who Has Their Shit Together." And it was like, doesn't exist. But like, you think about that and you're like, we are taking on so many roles as parents that I think like it's an impossible thing to be put together without help, without assistance, without relying on other people. And that makes me so sad that people are in this state where they feel like it's just okay not to have your shit together, and it's impossible, where if we relied on other people, we could do it.
Absolutely. And the idea of asking for help, I always say that people say that the number one fear for most people in America is public speaking. I think the three of us probably don't fall into that category, but for a lot of people, it's true. That's the worst case scenario for them. But I think next to that, maybe even above that, is asking for help, what most people are afraid of doing. And that's become more talked about now as we lead with authenticity, but there also is still such an enormous stigma attached to it, because then let's think of that next step. Asking for help, does that mean that I am mentally, emotionally, or otherwise deficient in some sort of way? And so then that's a Pandora's box. And then that leads to more stigma.
Absolutely. You have 6 archetypes that you say you need in your village and your community, and we're going to get into those right after this.
The holiday season is here, and Ginny Kane is our go-to destination. They have everything you need, from luxurious clothing and shoes to candles and home decor and so much more. Check out their iconic gift guide if you're looking to effortlessly check everyone off your list. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order. Go to jennykane.com and use the code GUILT15 to get 15% off. Now, Joanne and I have our favorite pieces. Hers is the cropped cashmere cocoon cardigan in ivory, and I have to say it looks stunning on her, and she has said it is so cozy. Mine is the alpaca cocoon crew neck in their seasonal design, ivory with pinstripes. I love how I can wear it with leggings just to veg out at home, or pair it with some cute boots and jeans for an evening out. It's amazing. So gift yourself and your loved ones the best gift of all, Ginny Kane. Our listeners get 15% off your first order when you use the code GUILT15 at checkout. That's 15% off your first order at JENNIKAYNE.com. Promo code GUILT15. Let getting dressed be one less thing to worry about. There's a lot happening these days. It can feel especially stressful or hopeless when things are totally outside your control. And if you're anything like me, you're also having trouble focusing with things like parenting issues, work challenges, perimenopause. It can totally wreak havoc on your ability to stay focused and be productive. This sounds like you. I know something that can make a real difference. Calm.
Calm is the #1 app for sleep and meditation, giving you the power to calm your mind and change your life. Calm offers a wide range of content and programs to help you navigate life's ups and downs, including meditations to help you work through anxiety and stress, boost your focus, build healthier habits, and even take better care of your physical well-being.
Stress less, sleep more, and live better with Calm. For listeners of our podcast show, Calm is offering an exclusive offer of 40% off Calm premium subscription at calm.com/NGM. Go to calm.com/NGM for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/NGM. Did you know that Americans take about 20,000 breaths a day and spend an average of 90% of their time indoors? And the indoor air quality that we breathe can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air, according to the EPA. Indoor air pollutants can cause respiratory symptoms like sneezing, congestion, scratchy throat, and even more serious health problems like lung and heart disease. So what's the solution? Introducing Air Doctor, the air purifier that filters out 99.99% of dangerous contaminants so your lungs don't have to. This includes allergens, pollen, pet dander, dust mites, mold spores, and even bacteria and viruses. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't love it, you just send it back for a refund minus the shipping. So head to airdoctorpro.com and use the promo code NGM, and you'll receive up to $300 off air purifiers. And exclusive to podcast customers, you will also receive a free 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. Lock in the special offer by going to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code NGM.
So we were talking about asking for help. And something that I find really interesting about your work, Florence Ann, is that you say, hey, here are the 6 kinds of people you need in your village and community around you to feel really supported. Can you go through those archetypes for us?
Well, it's
I'm going to keep track on my
go right ahead.
paper here to see how many I have in my own community.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want you to do. It's so funny that you're doing that. Do you guys watch Bravo at all? Do you watch Real Housewives? Do you go?
Yeah.
Last year I went on Heather Dubrow's podcast and we talked.
I love Heather.
Love Heather, right? Shamps, the whole thing, fancy pants, love her. We ended up casting the Real Housewives into these roles, like who played what. And it was so much fun. But I said, but Heather, that's exactly what this is. I want you to do this in your real life with the people that are around you. So it is a lot of fun. So I challenge you, Joanne, to go do this.
Yeah. And Bree, I wanted to give you a little insight. Heather Dubrow is the wife of Terry Dubrow, who's on Botched, our guilty pleasure. He's one of the doctors.
Yeah.
Well, Terry Dubrow, that is her husband. They're such a cute couple. But okay, so the reason I did 6 archetypes very quickly, everyone, parents, mothers, anyone would say to me, what are the directions to this village? Is there a phone number to call? Like, what do you do?
Right.
Show up at your
What's the criteria?
Right. Like, where is this village? I'm like, well, let's actually make something tangible. And so that's why I wanted 6 archetypes. So the first is accepting. This is the non-judgmental one. This is probably the very first person you're going to cast in your village. You think of this person as someone that you confide in, that you confess a secret to. So that's the accepting villager. And I'll stop if you want me to, or I'll run through them and you can tell me maybe who you think everyone is later. What would
maybe run through them all because I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's accepting. Dependable. This is your emergency contact. The person I say that actually answers their phone. If anyone even does that anymore, I'm actually I am literally 27 people's emergency contact for their children at school because I'm the only one that will answer the phone. So
right. I yell at my husband.
I screen all my calls.
See, there I could be your emergency contact.
Visual voicemail. Yes.
Exactly. Like, who is this person? But I can be that person for you if you need it. But that's your emergency contact, your dependable person. Your cheerleader, beyond just rah, rah, rah. This is the one who inspires you. Perhaps you're making a life change and you need someone to show up for you in that moment of transition. This is your hype person. Then there's the communicator. They have your best interest in mind. They're curious and even tempered, capable of seeing other perspectives. Can you believe? And also, no matter the situation, they're not going to turn the heat up on the stove. They're going to put a lid on it. And the organizer, similar, some of these have overlap, but the organizer is the person you can delegate to, the person that's going to give you peace of mind, knowing that you can release that control. I always say you can declutter both your home and your mind with this person. And then the last one is the healer, the one who walks next to you through it, whatever the it is in your life. But an important caveat, this doesn't mean that they fix you or they fix your situation. They are your consciously compassionate North Star. They simply make you feel better. So those are the 6 archetypes.
Do you need one person for each, or can one person fill like 2 or 3 roles?
I love that question. And yes, you can have 5 cheerleaders, 7 communicators. You can, it can be like that.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
Foundation for you. And then hopefully what you do is go, okay, I have 3 out of the 6. And you know what? Maybe the reason I'm feeling a little empty or a little isolated, a little lonely is because I'm missing that accepting person. I'm missing that healer. Or maybe you have the wrong people sitting in the wrong seats, or you have the wrong people sitting in the right seats, whatever it might be. It might be a shuffling the deck situation. It's like casting a movie or a play. These are your main characters, but you have to think and wonder, am I setting people up for success in these roles? Maybe my organizer is really the dependable one. Maybe the accepting villager is actually the healer. So you have to start evaluating your friendships and see how it's actually shaking out.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, can I have, because I'm seeing Bree fits multiple roles of this.
Yeah, I have
me.
a lot of people that fit
multiple roles, right?
Yeah. And I like that. I like having people in multiple roles. And also an important note too, you may be at a point in your life where you're unable to fill some of those roles, even though you have filled them in the past. And I'll tell you a very brief story. I froze my eggs when I was 35. And going through all of that, I was like a disaster for hormones, everything else that was going on. I was really unable to do a lot of the things I thought I normally would be able to do. And at that point in my life, I had to say, you know what? I'm kind of only able to be these two villagers. One day I'm going to go back to being those other ones for people. But right now I need to kind of be honest with myself about how I can show up for people. And something very important about this work is it's not supposed to be selfish. It's not just me, gimme. What do I need? Who do I want? It's also, who am I of these people? And how am I showing up for the other people and other villages?
Yeah.
And you making sure you're doing that evaluation too.
No, that's so interesting because like I see all of these roles and immediately I think like I need to fulfill them and be every one of them really, really well to be a good person. Bree's like,
I told you the other day, only one of us is allowed to have a breakdown at the same time. I don't think it's scheduled them. And that would cause a breakdown.
This though, I think like many people feel like they need to be all those things, else they feel like guilty.
Well, yes.
Again, Catholic guilt.
You might think it. It might be that voice in your head. But what I would hope is that you would immediately go, that's not fair. That's not possible. You know what? I'm sorry. It brings me back to like my mantra that I do with self-compassion is I am enough. Mm-hmm. I am enough as is. I don't need to add extra to me. And so like I look at all 6 and I'm like, I know that there's not that much space in me to be able to fill 6 roles for people.
The definition of a good mom is actually all 6 of those roles all together.
You're saying you think that definition of a good mom is all 6 of those roles.
I think that the societal definition of a good mom is all 6 of these roles.
I agree what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. But we also know that you can't be everything to everyone because then there is nothing left in your cup.
Well, let's challenge that then, right? So for example, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are. That's part of the evolution of oneself, right? You know, that you get in touch with yourself more and more. I always think about my future children and I think, I don't know how I'll ever do homework with them because I can't do math or science to save my life. I will start sweating if someone shows me something on Excel. I don't even want to see a spreadsheet. So I'm thinking to myself already, I'm already going to fail my kids. I'm already going to fail my kids because I'm not going to be able to help them in school. And so then I thought to myself, no. You have people in your life that know how to do this stuff and can help your children. And that's just not the thing that you're going to be able to help with. So I'm already starting to prepare myself for that moment because I was that nanny too, by the way. They'd be like, can you help me with my geometry? And I'm like, no. I mean, this was before the internet. So by the way, I couldn't like just go Google something. I had to be this. So, you just have to be kinder to yourself, give yourself a lot more grace, but I think you're right. People can look at that and think if I can't do all those things, then I've failed in some sort of way. And what I actually want you to do is quite the opposite. I want you to look at that and think, gosh, I feel so empowered to be able to dive in or lean into some of these things that I really feel like I can succeed in. And that to me is like the New Year's resolution that we should all have. And you think to yourself, you know what? I could really, really lean into being a good cheerleader. I think I can do that. For the next year, that is what I'm going to work on. I'm going to work on being that cheerleader in these other villages instead of join that gym or whatever it is that, we do with these New Year's resolutions that never seem to actually pan out. I love the idea of that instead because that's going to turn it forward.
That's a good goal.
Yeah,
I think
it is very empowering and it almost seems easier than some of the expectations that women put on themselves right now. And I'm like speaking from like the point of view of like I coach women. I hear this so much about women being down on themselves for being deficient in one area. And what I like about your archetypes is that it really delineates it down and makes it so like you don't have to be all these things. Yeah. You could have other people fill these roles and you could just work on one. So coming up next, I really want to delve into how you find the people for these roles. And we'll dive into that right after this.
Green Chef and every plate is now owned by HelloFresh. And with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. I love switching between the brands, and now our listeners can enjoy all of the brands with us for a discount.
I love the holidays, Brie, but with how busy they are, I'm always looking for ways to make them a little more manageable. And HelloFresh does that. It saves you time from searching for recipes and all that grocery shopping. You just pick your meals, and then everything is delivered to your front door.
You can save valuable time during the busy holiday season with fewer trips to that way overcrowded grocery store, all thanks to the HelloFresh Market. Plus, if you're traveling for the holidays or you're just too busy to cook at home, you can cancel or skip a week. It is that easy.
Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freeNGM. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/freeNGM.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
So I was wondering, is there a store that we can just go and like randomly pick out these people? Or like, do we have to like, go through Facebook and silently stalk people from high school and whatnot? Like, how do we go about this?
Wish there was that store. It would make life a lot easier, even like dating, right? Where's the boyfriend store? You can just go.
Yeah. Thing I remember seeing one time, and this woman's like, I'm returning this because you said we could return at any time.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Wouldn't that be nice? But just like dating, this is kind of that. You really are dating, in your friendships, figuring out that chemistry and, that thing you can't put your finger on, but there's a connection. That's all real about, and there's actually another subject matter I talk about, which is attachment styles that you have in your friendships versus just romantic relationships. And so as you start to do this work, you start to see what your attachment styles are too. So that's a different subject matter. However, how do you find these people? My #1 question probably from any conference or seminar or interview I do is exactly that. How do you find these people? The first step, and I promise you it is one of the most surefire ways that you will start to find and make progress in this after you do that initial evaluation about your low-hanging fruit, who's already there, and then you're going to go out and find out what's missing, whatever it might be. Philanthropy is my #1 suggestion. The reason I say philanthropy is because you're going to figure out what makes my heart beat, what makes my heart flutter, how do I want to serve, because I do believe that we live a life in service of others in a lot of ways, shapes and forms, whatever that means to people. And also it can be very difficult to want to meet people, know how to meet people, and it not feel, again, to use that word, threatening. So think about what makes your heart flutter. Throw it into Google or whatever it might be and see what organizations exist around you in your community in a way that you can give back. Because then you're going to meet people that are like-minded, share similar values, and it's going to be a non-threatening environment for you to start to get to know people. And you're going to have an activity that you're doing too. And I promise you, it's going to start to open up your heart and your mind to friendships in a way that probably hasn't before.
I love that because I can say from my own experience that's the case right now currently in my life. Like I joined this organization that just formed here in Phoenix called Chamber of Mothers. It is all about coming together to lobby for mothers' interests like paid leave, affordable childcare, and maternal health. In that group, I found so many people of similar mindsets to me and people who are just as fired up as I am about the state of our world. And we're like There's charity work we're doing with an organization called Jacob's Ladder that provides like help to moms with like newborns. There's all of this great stuff. And I dig the people in there versus like my former workplace, not no guilt mom, because I got to pick all the people I work with here.
And it is.
But like at my former workplace, you know, you work with people and you don't necessarily jive with them in terms of like mindset and stuff. So I love that philanthropy one. Yeah.
It's worth trying. And I love what you're saying too, because you just took the words out of my mouth. You dig those people, you jive with those people. And that also helps you figure out also what your priorities are in your life right now. And that's actually a conversation I had with one of my closest friends, a mutual friend of ours. We were saying, you know what, things are changing in this relationship. I still love her, but gosh, it just feels different. And we both kind of said, you know what, I don't think she's interested in the things we're interested in anymore, and not interested in learning why, or like why this is who we are right now. And it doesn't mean you don't love them, send them light, send them love, you're there for them, whatever it is. But it does help you kind of reevaluate and reprioritize your life and start to be very intentional. That's one of my favorite words too, very intentional about the connections you are making. This is not like collecting a deck of, it's a quality versus quantity conversation that we're having. I don't want you to go out and have to find 100 people because you feel like that's going to make you a full person. Some of the loneliest people I know are the busiest. Having a social calendar that's crazy is also not going to fulfill you. So what we're talking about here really is about values and really is about prioritizing and really is about intentionality.
And I think it's important to note, like you said, and I think Joanne, you were mentioning too, that people grow, things change.
Yes.
And that you don't have to hold on to just because you're shifting roles, or maybe because somebody is having some different thought processes in their life, doesn't mean that you have to cut them out completely. But it does mean that maybe they shift in where they were in the hierarchy of your relationship. You know,
that's going to happen in these archetypes too. I mean, actually, just recently, I just found out that a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, had told someone information that I never thought that she would have ever told someone else. And I was like, oh, okay. So not so much the one I can confide in, but she's still a wonderful person who's been a part of my life for many years. And I need to put her into a different role now.
Yeah.
And I see that. And it's so funny. The person that wrote this book, Build Your Village, with these archetypes, I was talking to another girlfriend of mine about how my heart was a little sick over it. She goes, well, isn't it time to move her into a different role? Isn't she a different villager now? I was like, yes, she is. And why did I not
see that?
So, and here I am, I'm just laughing. I forgot about the things I said myself. So, it happens. And doesn't mean you just write people off or you break up with them. You never talk to them. They're horrible. You condemn them, and sometimes that happens and you do have to fire people in your life and that's it. But sometimes it is about shifting roles and it is just finding a place to set them up for success.
Yeah, that it's interesting because I like thinking of it that way, because then if they do one thing that hurts you, it's not like they're a bad person to be around. You could just put them into a different role versus like,
right.
Yeah, it depends on what they did. But there are some like friendships that I've had in the past who I have not let go of. Like I haven't written them out, but I have intentionally stepped back. And now that I look at this list, I'm like, they weren't fulfilling any of these roles for me. I felt like I was doing most of the work in the relationship. And it didn't seem like they wanted to fulfill any of those roles for me. So like, I guess that would happen too. If you look at this list and you're like, maybe like I could just intentionally step back.
Well, that's one of the tests. Sometimes you see like, you're like, all right, you know what? I'm constantly giving here and I'm not feeling the reciprocity. So you say, you know what? I'm going to intentionally not reach out to this person. And I want to wait and see how long it takes them to actually contact me or check on me or whatever it is. And then kind of, it just naturally takes care of itself sometimes.
Yeah.
And those fringe friendships, those can be valuable for whatever they are, but they're the peripheral. And that's okay too. Not everyone is going to be in your inner circle. Not everyone person is going to be your ride or die. And I mean, that's okay. You have different friends for different reasons, but those fringe friendships or social friendships, sometimes they play a role in your life too.
Yeah. Well, I love this, Florence, and you've given so many actionable tips that people can take to find their village and to evaluate their village mates so far. So what's coming up for you that you're excited about?
I'm really paying a lot of attention to the public speaking side of things. I would like to turn Build Your Village into a curriculum. So that's what I'm working on right now, and starting to get in front of more, all people are wonderful, but of course those ladies, I'm big about the sisterhood. So, starting to, again, create a curriculum around it, but also, maybe doing more retreats or conferences or things like that, where we can really dive deep into connection and the loneliness epidemic in our country right now.
True. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us here, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, my new friends. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, so looking at those 6 archetypes, Brie, she had them as the accepting, the dependable, the cheerleader, the communicator, the organizer, and the healer. And something I was like, I depend on you for so many of those right now. Like, you're the accepting one. You're the dependable one. You usually answer your phone or get back to me very, very soon. You're the communicator, definitely. You're the organizer at work. You're the healer at times, and you're the cheerleader at times too. So, it's like you fit in a lot of places.
It's same for me, but who else did you have in your village? I'm curious.
My husband. He can be the organizer. He's also the communicator in there, and the accepting and the dependable. Shayna is in there as well. My sister, sometimes she would definitely be a dependable one. I'm usually fulfilling the other roles for her, though. Accepting, she's definitely accepting as well. Some relationships I have, I feel like I do fulfill these roles for other people, but I don't sometimes get them back from other people. And that's what I was talking about too, is the friendship that I just kind of let sift. And what she said was correct. I did stop contacting and reaching out to this person and seeing when they contacted me in return. And the first contact was maybe 3 months later, but no action was set to follow up after contact. So I was like, okay.
That
what about you?
Rough. Well, mine, I had you in a ton of them. I had Miguel in quite a few of them. I had Jen, my good friend Jen. Shayna was in there as well. My friend Jess. My friend Jess is a dependable one. I can Jess is from college. I could not talk to her for months at a time, but if I call her, text her, she will be right back on that.
That's my friend Bridget. Yeah.
Yeah.
From high school.
And I feel like both of my sisters fill those as well. And I would even say my mom is in there.
My mom's in there too.
Yeah. But and it's funny because for our case, you and I, we both have our family nearby. Mine's closer than yours. But
even my mother-in-law's in there, actually. So,
yeah, right? So my family is literally within 20 minutes of me, my immediate family, my parents and my sisters. But in addition to that, I also have my village that are my friends. And I think that, at least in my experience, I'm a pretty social person. I know that about myself. But when I didn't have any friends when my kids were little, because I was so in the thick of when my kids were really little. So before my kids got into elementary school, once they got into elementary school, I made friends there, as you know, hence being one of my elementary school mom friends. Those are the people that I really jived with. And I could feel that big emptiness that I had, even though I had my family here. So somebody would say I had a village, that emptiness was filled. And it's shifted over the years through different things. And people sometimes they're in the front seat and then they move further to the back or around, like you said. And it definitely fills my heart and my soul. So.
Yeah, I would say the same. That kindergarten group, we bonded, especially when Girl Scouts started. and everything became revolving around that. Exactly. It's hard though when you don't have I felt very lonely when my daughter was in preschool, but I had work then too. I was a teacher, so I was friends with the other teachers, people I don't really talk to now, but were so important in my life then, and would probably still be important today too if we got back in touch. But yeah, it's interesting. It just changes.
Yeah, life takes you in different directions. So I absolutely loved Florence Ann, besides the fact that she's got a kick-ass name.
Yeah, Florence.
she's part of the Anne Club.
Yeah, exactly. No, she was wonderful to talk to. Go get her book. We have a link for you down in the show notes. And then until next time, remember, the best mom's a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
No one told us the truth about parenthood. Why? This is the podcast everyone needed before they had kids, because now that those little ones are here, there is a lot to unpack. I'm Rachel Shepardota, and I am your host for the podcast No One Told Us, where we tell the truth about parenting and let you in on all the stuff you really should have known about before having kids. I am the founder of Hey Sleepy Baby, but this podcast is so much more than sleep. We'll be diving into all the topics that you really care about and need to know while you do your best job raising those adorable, tiny humans. Our goal is to just make you feel less alone and less overwhelmed. There are so many things that no one tells us before becoming a parent, and I think that we should really pull back the curtain on becoming a first-time or second-time mom or dad to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll have a little education, a little fun, and a whole lot of heart that goes into each and every episode. So join me and our amazing guests each week to hear us talk about what no one told us.